I had such a fantastic time with the other speakers and hanging out with your kids. You guys got awesome kids. It was fun. And I'll tell you something, I do a lot of work with schools, and typically when I go into school, I find it very stressful because typically in North American schools that I visit anyways, there is a general lack of respect for kids, and they're turned off learning. And I have to give a rebuttal to the gender piece there too, because I think there's a big conversation happening now around gender and learning, and for a long time we thought we For a long time, I think we thought that we disenfranchised our girls and that we were leaving them behind. And I think in the emphasis around girls and education, we now are seeing that we've left some boys behind. Boys who don't want to sit in desks, who'd like to get up. Boys who would have fit the category that I was talking about today, who would like to be busy and grab that hammer and grab that saw right away and get at it, let's go, let's get her done kind of boys, who end up getting labeled as being disobedient, who end up being put on Ritalin, who end up being slapped a diagnosis of conduct disorder. And those are exactly the kids who I think actually are going to come together as we see the 40 million and all these other numbers that are going to be the revolutionaries that say there's another way to do life where I can thrive and survive. And so there was a piece of that going on for me today, and it was just fantastic. So I want to tell you a little bit about my overall experience and what I saw and what was meaningful for me. Generally speaking, I would say today was about kids being active and producing. Active and putting out. These were not kids who were being passive and consuming, which is so often the way traditional education is formulated. I know that you folks were watching that feed, and I have to say, what did you think about the soldering guns and the saws? Were you going crazy? I'm looking at the mums here. We have this most bubble-wrapped generation. Where I come from, they're taking down the playground equipment because kids might slip and fall into the dirt. So they're just flat. It's just concrete now. What's to do out on the playground at recess when it's just flat with nothing to do? You bully. We wonder why bullying's on the rise. Here are these kids with saws and soldering irons, and that scares the bejeebus out of us. But you know what? The kids love that. And it's amazing how competent they got with a little hammer and swinging, from the shoulder in just a few swings. Incredibly empowering. One of the boys leaned over and said, "Wow, I can't believe we're allowed to do this. I have a friend in 5th grade who's not allowed to use scissors yet." I want you to think about that. It is an indication of our general infantilizing of kids. It is a symptom of a world where we mostly think kids are not capable and that we do not open up opportunities to them. And yet if we do, they flourish. That it's a call for us as parents to increase what we might think our kids could do and manage to do. We've gotten, I would say, perverse in what we think kids can't do in our society. I remember hearing about the last living veteran of World War I telling his story of leaving home at 7 and walking from Italy to France. And he was a chimney sweep. He actually joined the army because that was an easier thing to do. That was, well, that's better than cleaning chimneys, right? 7 years old, leaving home at 7 years old. Most of us wouldn't let our kids cross the street at 7 years old. Unbelievable. Our kids can do a lot more if we give them the opportunity, and I saw a lot of allowing kids to do today. At the end of that actual working with the saw piece, the kids made a chair, and the one child was sitting on the chair, and she said, "Oh, it's so comfy." Did you see the hardwood that it was made of? But you know what? When you made that chair, man, that is a comfy chair, because that's my chair, right? It's a beautiful thing I saw. The other thing I saw today was noise. Noise. None of those kids got hushed. None of them got hushed. You need to have some energy and talk about things in a group when you work. It was a beautiful thing. And yet when they were called on to give instruction, there was immediate respect. Immediate respect because, and this is what I truly believe, those facilitators approached those kids in a way that those kids knew they were respected immediately. It was palpable that they were coming in an egalitarian relationship. So they gave them respect back when it was called for. You give me the freedom to be loud when I need to be. Give me the respect of being quiet when I need to give instruction. So those kids were able to turn it on and turn it off, and that's a fantastic skill. Kids need to be loud so long as they are respectful. Why I think that's important that they got this feeling from their facilitators is that of the two things we know about academics in terms of influencing our kids' performance, one is ratio. ratio of facilitators to teachers. I wish we could do better in that department around across the board everywhere. But the second factor is the child's perception that their teacher likes them. The relationship. The relationship. And so often we're in wars between teachers and students. They do not feel like they're their learning allies. When we do this style of teaching that's child-centered, led teaching, where the teacher is actually seen as a co-producer in the learning environment, those kids feel a sense of a kinship pretty quickly. And you can see them wanting to perform. And I saw that happening today. Another thing I saw was "Aw, it's over?" How many kids go to school? They're like, "What, is it recess? I got to get out of here," right? They want to get away from the classroom. Shouldn't it be every day that when our kids are learning and inspired, that it's so great that they don't want it to end? And I'm reminded of this by giving my niece her first board game. It was basically like a snakes and ladder. It was called Race to the Roof, but she'd never had a board game before. And so we were all playing. And so she won the game. Here she gets this game and she wins the game. She gets her game piece to the top. And I'm like, "Sarah, you won." And Sarah starts to cry. And Sarah says, "Why do they call it winning when I'm the first person who has to stop?" I thought, isn't that true? Doesn't that say something about how we have to brainwash kids and make everything competitive? Whoever plays the longest is the winner because it should be fun. And the thing we know about fun is that when we keep things coded as fun, we put it in a different part of the brain than when we code it as work. And so long as we continue to keep education fun, we keep it in that play area, we'll want to do it forever. So isn't it Mark Twain who said, "Don't let your schooling get in the way of a good education"? Today, the kids had a good education. It didn't feel like schooling. It felt like they went out to play. You could tell. I hope it felt like play for you folks in here as well. What else have I got here? The kids were working in groups. We already talked about the idea of this collaboration in the future, but what's interesting is they were self-selecting groups. They were allowed to pick who they worked with. These kids didn't know each other before they came together today, but the minute you do something productive with another person, that is actually how we bond. That's how kids create a sense of affiliation with another human being. That is part of the attachment process. Self-selecting, seeking out, and doing a task together. And it happened immediately. The team building happened immediately in this environment. We went over and asked, "You guys, you're all working together here. Who's in charge here?" And there were 3 boys said, "No one's in charge." And then they all stopped and said, "No, actually, we're all in charge." Isn't that beautiful? I think that's beautiful. Well, there wasn't a takeover Tommy. There wasn't a little dictator. They really understood collaboration because of the environment that they were in. That stood out to me. No one's in charge. No, we're all in charge. One class, they asked for a volunteer. There was a hesitation. Nobody wanted to volunteer. That's very common. I teach parenting. A lot of parents don't want to get up and do the first, "Ooh, that could be a role play. I might embarrass myself." It's got to really wait a little while before you stick your neck out and potentially risk looking foolish. But then they said, "Well, we need someone to work with the tortillas and the pancakes." What? Tortillas and pancakes? What the heck can that be about, right? Suddenly it's a safe environment. Tortillas and pancakes, well, I'll sign up for that. We've suddenly lowered the risk. We've lowered the fear factor. And we can do that purposely for our kids because our kids are very mistake phobic. And I want to speak to you about that as a very important concept in education, in raising our kids, and the future of what we need to change in the way that we present academic experiences for our kids. And I was inspired by this little machine. Did anyone know what this is? Did anyone see this on the screen? No? See? Now the kids all know something you don't know. They can all go home and tell you about this. This is actually called the Solder Sucker 9000. Thank you very much. That's what the kids were told, the Solder Sucker 9000, right? So they're working on their panels and they're soldering. And the one little boy says, "Oh, I made a mistake." They go, "No problem, we got the Solder Sucker 9000. And what you do with this thing is, you compress it, you put it on the solder that you didn't like where it landed, gone. Solder's gone. There you go. He said, "There's no such thing as mistakes, we just put this on. There's no mistakes, there's no wrong. Gone." And the boy says, "Wouldn't it be great if the world was like that? There is no mistakes, there is no wrong." Every one of us needs one of these in our homes. There is no wrong. We know now when it comes to kids and learning If you read Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers, it takes 10,000 hours to get to mastery, regardless of what it is, whether you're learning how to roll a cigar or whether you're learning how to be a cardiac surgeon or a violinist. 10,000 hours, or gaming, can I say? I think you were there. Ding, 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 ding. 10,000 hours to get to mastery. The people that are going to get to 10,000 hours are the people who can tolerate mistakes. Because you've got to make a lot of mistakes in those 10,000 hours. That mistakes are opportunities to learn. And our kids in the current system do not always feel this way. They see mistakes as failure, that they are to be avoided at any cost. And we need to change that thinking because it comes pretty quickly in kids. And a lot of why that comes is because we're also very praise-oriented with our kids. So in a sense, they're always in a feeling of judgment, always being judged. I'm right or I'm wrong. I'm right or I'm wrong. So we need to move away from praise and move to encouragement. And I want to talk about how powerful that is, citing the work of Carol Dweck. And because I didn't get to hear the talks this afternoon, I don't know if I'm repeating what other people have shared. She researched how small the language changes can be and how large the impact can be on kids. So here's how she designed her experiment in the classroom. She had two groups of kids, divided them in half. She said to the one group of kids, after giving them a series of simple puzzles to do, she said, "Boys and girls, I've marked your work. You did very well. You must be smart." She said to the other group, after they had done their puzzles and they had gotten marked, "Boys and girls, I marked your work. You did very well. You must have studied hard." That's the only difference in what she said. She then goes back to the same group of kids and she says, "You know what? Those puzzles and things, those activities that you got to work on, would you like to do some more? Would you like to do some more challenging ones?" What do you think this group of students said, the ones that were told they were smart? What do you think? Do you think they wanted to do more? No, they didn't want to do more. What if I get them wrong? More challenging? I'm stopping at smart. I'm at smart right now. Don't make me do that again. I might lose the status of being smart, right? This group felt that if they had to have an effort to put out work and it required effort, that they must be stupid. They associated effort with stupidity. This group, on the other hand, said, "Learning is fun. I like this challenge. If I turn up the dial on trying, I get more output. I have a sense of self-agency around that. I can turn up the dial. I can learn more." They weren't afraid of mistakes. They wanted more challenges. So they were able to continue to raise the bar. And so now I have a daughter who's debating, if I take regular level math, I'll stay on honor roll because I have a higher likelihood of getting it. Do you want to make honor roll or do you want to learn the most that you can learn about math? What's the more important goal? I want her to be a lifelong learner. That's what the goal is, right? Otherwise, we do too many workarounds. So I have my this little ball that I brought up at the beginning of our talk here. And how are we doing for... Yeah, okay. I know there's another group that's coming in, and I don't want you folks to miss reconnecting with your kids. Still more good things to come. Today, when I talked about the idea of living in egalitarian relationships with our kids and realizing that, yes, we need to be disciplinarians, and yes, we need to coach them, and yes, there's a role for us in our children's education, an important role in their education. And I would say the fact that you're here today learning about their education tells me that you have found a place to be engaged and involved in their education, and they will know that. The children that are seeing their parents walking around know, you've come to my world. You want to understand me. This is where I live. It's an important experience for kids to see their parents engaged in the academic process. But too often what we end up doing is controlling the academic process. That is actually one of our stumbling blocks as well. So I have, and here we'll get back to the gender for you, Walter. This is my little responsibility ball. That one of the things that we have to realize is whose job is it anyways? Whose responsibility is it? And what I know is that very responsible mothers raise very irresponsible children. Because we're so responsible, right? We're like this ultimate safety net. So what I like to tease mothers about is if this is a responsibility ball, and imagine that you are on a ball team, it's as if we are the ball hogs, right? Aren't we just running around the court saying, I got it, I got it, I got it. I got your agenda. I got your school pizza form. I got your karate uniform. The kids are sitting there going, Mom, pass. I'm in the free. Pass me our responsibility. Your kids are not going to take responsibility for their learning until you let go of it. I'm telling you, mums, it is a gender thing. Put the responsibility ball down. Hand it back to the children. They will do just fine. And then walk away from the ball. Let them own their learning. One a great Canadian, Bandura, Alberta, small town Alberta, he created social learning theory. He created it because in grade 13, when we had a grade 13 back then, he had a terrible teacher. And he spent the first part of the year going, ha, 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 I don't have to study anything. Ha, 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 I'm getting away with all this stuff. She's such a slack happy. She never checks papers. This teacher's terrible. Until it got close to the end of the year, and he went, holy, but I'm the one that has to bring home the report card. I'm the one that has to go apply to universities. He said, I guess I'm going to have to teach myself. And that moment was so fundamental for him when he picked up his responsibility ball at grade 13. Wouldn't have been nice if it was kindergarten. Wouldn't have been nice if it was when he was 2. He picked up that responsibility ball and he took ownership for his learning. I have never met a child that didn't want to learn. As a matter of fact, I believe our kids are learning all the time. We simply need to remove the building blocks that stop them from learning. That we don't want discouraging classrooms. We want joyful classrooms. We want kids that are turned on in life. And we do that by providing curriculum that intrigues them and engages them, that's emergent as we've seen today. If that's online, fantastic. My teens are online all the time. I totally support that. We have to make the world a place where our kids can thrive by, in a sense, getting out of their way. And I hope people got a sense of that today. Aren't you not jazzed up for this next generation? Don't you want to be 10 again? Not just for today, but to be part of that cohort that's going to go on and do all these amazing things. I think the future is fantastic. It's just unbelievable what's exploding. I don't know how we're ever going to do longitudinal research, actually. It's changing so quickly. That's going to be a dying dinosaur. But I'm glad that you're on this journey. I hope people got really stoked by what they saw today. And I guess my big take home for me, or what I challenge you with today, is how are we going to take the energy and the enthusiasm and the ideas that everyone presented today and make that into real change for public education? Because I can't do it alone. I go to my board meetings, I stand against those stonewall faces of bureaucracy, and I realize, I'm a therapist, I got to learn how to be a politician. It's only going to work if we do this together, and it's only going to work if we stay connected around these ideas. So I hope this is the beginning of your journey, that we all stay together so that we can put those changes in place so that our kids have the best possible opportunity to be all that they can be. So thank you.